when people talk about hack attack, what has been attacked and what are we talking about?
Yes, there's a lot of PR that's needed around this because the headlines come up saying London Stock Exchange hacked, New York Stock Exchange bought down by hackers, etc. Invariably, I get the press phoning me up saying, you know, what's your take on all of this? And I have to explain to the journalists usually that it's not the trading systems that have been hacked. It's the websites, and invariably it's the websites that have been attacked. And there are three main reasons why, or rather there are three main sort of miscreants, if you like. People who are trying to move markets or commit fraud. Some people who are just generally sort of have it in for stock exchanges. And thirdly, we've been seeing sort of like some tit-for-tat sort of hackings between sort of rival countries around the world. Which is
if we're being glib, if we're being really, really glib and it's just their website, does it matter?
Well, that depends how important your website is. And some of the exchanges that we've worked with, their websites are the most heavily used website in their country. And that's because a lot of retail investors use the website to find current prices, to look at historic prices and research other information about those stocks. I think so it very much depends whether exchanges take responsibility for disseminating to the general public information about their stocks that they can't get from other organisations. So
segueing quite nicely into what we were talking about a little moment ago about mobile services.
Indeed, yes. And I think there are sort of two schools of thought. One is that exchanges like to provide this information and have a role in it, and partly to promote capital markets within their country. The other is that they can actually spend quite a lot of money on the technology that supports real-time charting and stuff like that, which I would argue isn't really their role, quite frankly. That would be the role of the brokers and the data vendors within the country. They do have an obligation, I think, to present information such as statistics, standing data, for example, for stocks, a certain amount of pricing information, but delayed, possibly, and that's about it. I think it's very dangerous for a stock exchange to have such an important website that if that website goes down for whatever reason, then the entire capital markets within the country is affected.
So you think there's some credibility around that if your website can be hacked, then what else could be hacked as well?
From a PR perspective, if you don't want to be in the situation where if your website is hacked, that's reported in the media generally as being your entire stock exchange is hacked, and oh, you know, CTO, why have you got such a hackable infrastructure, etc. So there's quite a lot to be guarded about there. There are differences between making sure your trading systems and infrastructure is secure and your website, and obviously quite a lot of exchanges outsource the hosting of their website to another organization, so they don't necessarily have direct control about how secure or insecure their websites actually are. Of course, I would say it's imperative for any stock exchange at the moment to have a review done of their website by possibly an external party.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. You know, big headline in the FT or the Times, and then, you know, by XYZ exchange, you know, hack attack, and then you get the phone call, Paul, help! You know, what is it that you do? You go in, you're Mr. Glitch, you know, what is it that you go through? How do you help them? And what are the sort of solutions that you help sort of suggest that stock exchanges put in place?
Well, certainly you start from a sort of high level, from a business level, and say, well, actually, what services are you offering via the website, and shouldn't those be offered by other means? You look at the in particular the contractual arrangements. So if a website is being hosted by a third party, what sort of SLAs are there in place? And then you can conduct, if you like, a quality and security review with specialist consultants that sort of deal with the low-level technology surrounding the technical infrastructure of exactly how sort of easy or difficult it is for any third party to be able to sort of hack their way into the infrastructure that's being supported.
Well, I think, Basab, it would be a good time for you to come on down. As I said, Basab heads up the IT team at the Dubai Gold and Commodities Exchange. He's got a really rich background across asset classes, and as well, he's very, very instrumental in setting up the multi-asset exchange infrastructure for the multi-commodity exchange in India, the IBS at FX, and the interconnected exchange in India. So with all of that experience across multiple continents, across multiple asset classes, I can imagine security risks and hack attacks are something that keep you awake at night. Or hopefully you sleep at night because you're so secure. Please sit down. Yes, you do stay here, yes. This is our Jonathan Ross format, yes. Is that right?
Good morning, and thanks for the kind introduction. Well, definitely, I mean, the security is one of the concerns. I mean, nobody can deny that, and especially when we are running a financial system. So therefore, we have to ensure that all the entry points and then exit points are adequate, even managed. Things are in the policies are in place. Now, I'm very happy. One thing I will tell you that this DG6, where I'm currently managing the systems, and we are running around 6 years, and we have done successfully running the systems without any single interruption of any sort of hacking.
So there we go. Got a headline, Dubai Gold and Commodity Exchange, never been hacked. Never. Yes, touch wood, everybody. Touch your heads. Off we go.
So that's is one thing which can definitely share it. Let me share my experience. How generally when we are coming into designing this part. Let us see what are the entry point for an exchange perspective, and one is that we are disseminating this information like website. Yes, I agree with him that a lot of people go to the website, the researcher or the retail users to go and see what are the current prices there. So that is not one part, but that is not that critical compared to the core systems and what we have. Now, what are the entry points? Entry points is mostly coming the fixed interface or the dissemination like feed interface, or the drop copy, what we are doing it. So these are the couple of interfaces which is facing to the external people. Now, if we can secure that, so then possibly we can avoid any sort of the hacking part. Now, fortunately, it is a closed user group, so people are coming to the exchange. We know where from the entry points, so therefore we can put proper access list and all, so that unnecessary things should not come to the systems. But I would say it is more than external. The internal problem is much more. And I'm sure the people will agree with me. It is a hacking majority concern is come internal rather than the external. Because in the internal, what happened? There are in an office there are hundreds of people who are accessing this data. So therefore, the concern is that how we can ensure the internal people when they're accessing to the systems, where reasonably we have limited control, how we can see that. I guess the two things is important. One is the proper process, like in DG6, we are the first exchange in the Middle East to gun for ISO 2700 certification. So that ensures that proper policy and procedures are in place. People should know what to do, what should not to do, and then appropriate and the hardening need to be done to the respective boxes, so that waste level things have been taken care. And trust me, if we have a proper policy, we can. I cannot say 100%, but definitely we can bring down any sort of unnecessary access or hacking by 99.9%. Yeah, and obviously multi-vendors approach also need to be there, and I'm very glad to tell you that IBM has made a case study on us on our security. So that also important if the partner associate to us and ensure that yes, because they're coming with their own rich experience, if they associate and partner with us and situate that all the policy in things that in the stuff is there, so that also then helps. So in summary, I will tell you that first important part is that we should have proper policy and procedure in the things, number one. And number two is that let's identify the entry points and try to ensure that those entry points are taken care of.
So, Tahir, we heard from you a little earlier about mobile services, and you touched a little bit on security, but I think it would be really good to get your insights, particularly around hack attacks for anybody who wasn't here before, Tahir heads up IT at the Sarajevo Stock Exchange and has a particular specialism in neural networks and programming of the electronic trading system over at the Sarajevo Exchange. So first of all, have you ever been attacked, or would you admit it?
We have been attacked on a daily basis, according to our logs.
But not in the
headlines. Most
headlines.
of it are distributed denial of service attacks, SQL injection attacks, etc. But it's on a daily basis. It's quite normal for us. When we speak about the exchange security...
Actually, sorry, just to interrupt, do you think, Paul, then, and I apologise to hear, do you think then actually, because you only see the negative headlines, actually exchanges should put out announcements? Been attacked today, nothing happened. Been attacked today, solved it. Been attacked, dismissed it.
I would, off the top of my head, I'd say I don't think it was very good for stock exchanges to produce any press releases to say with the words attacked and themselves in the same sentence. And obviously, if you load up firewall and protective software on your laptop even, you can get it to sort of say when, it's defended you from something trying to get into it, which you can see happens sort of like literally every 10 minutes. Something or another hacks into you. So, yes, I would say it's fairly common.
Sorry to hear. I just like the fact that you were honest, but in a really, really positive way for the Sarajevo Exchange.
I think that almost every page on the internet is suffering from it, just because the every kid from the high school is capable of performing a denial of service. So it's more or less much in common for them. And
in terms of, I know you're very keen to have this as a deep and dirty technological discussion. What have you done and what have you put in place so that, you are secure? Because you said you've been attacked on a daily basis, but there are absolutely no headlines. So what have you had to put in place? Has that been costly? What sort of advice have you got? And is that a build or is that a buy solution?
First of all, I would like to point out possible gates or entrance for a particular intrusion. It depends on what is considered to be a weak point. Almost all of the exchanges run a closed system, and they are more or less well protected against the external intruders. But on the other hand, they are exposed only to the brokers via a standardized interface, like fixed protocol, for example. But there are also some concerns regarding the security of the fixed protocol itself, especially the encryptions, which can be used to actually secure the fixed session. Recently, there was a specific attack that was performed against the OpenSSL library, which is actually a library which has been developed for Apache web server, but it is more or less used by many exchanges and brokerage houses to protect the fixed session itself. Almost any fixed implementation that uses crypto library that doesn't implement the timing attack prevention can be the subject of an attack. For example, that means, and the idea is to, by repeatedly making connections to an SSL server, the intruder is forcing the server to perform the RSA decryptions of the ciphertexts, which are being sent by the intruder, and taking the accurate and measuring the accurate timestamps of how long it took for the server to perform the decryption. The intruder is able to actually extract the private key of the server. That's the problem for the libraries that do not implement and not addressing the timing attacks. And just because the most exchanges and brokerage houses are using third-party libraries to actually protect a fixed session, it might be the subject of possible intrusion. Also, the attacking the external library doesn't always mean that there should be any logs of a possible intrusion, etc. In this case, and in this example I've already mentioned, there were no logs at all, just because the connection itself has never been established. And the intruder was able to extract the server's private key in less than 10 minutes. That's the problem. So when the server's private key is compromised, we can just imagine what then can happen. The intruder might perform an identity spoofing and to establish an actual fixed connection to the exchange system. That's the first part that needs
so have you thought about some solutions around that? That's obviously where there are chinks in the armor around around the encryption. You talked again about, you know, having the right sort of partners, which resonates and picks up with some of the things that Basab said on his conversation. So, you know, between the two of you, you know, with that chink, is there a solution? What can you do? Is it a change of partnership, or is it something that we can't quite solve just yet?
Definitely, there should be standardized rules that needs to be introduced to every exchange which are using, for example, fixed protocol. Just because we can share experiences based on our logs, particularly what might happen, and also it can be done. Just because if we have, for example, protection of our websites in a more or less standardized ways, like, for example, using the Snort software and its community to actually download the standardized rules to protect our websites, we should do the same, for example, for protecting the fixed protocol or our crypto libraries, or anything else that might be the subject of a connection to the brokers.
Basab?
Well, I mean, the good thing is that, I mean, the people who are coming to the accesses to the exchange is known to us. So therefore, it's quite easy for us, and even though some malicious things that are happening, we can possibly identify from where the source is, you know, and accordingly we can. I personally have seen that sometimes problems that comes in a hosting environment when we are co-locating some infrastructure to our offices. In data centers. So sometimes, you know, we have seen some Fourier packets is coming due to the issue of the compromise of the particular server where a client application is running. Now, question is that we know that these things might happen. Are we being protected? So that's the question, you know. And if we are, then we should do that, and then it's taken care. Possibly you might have it is dependent upon the experience and as well. I mean, you might have first time you would get it, but then quickly we have to understand that if the Fourier packet is coming on particular specific source, it's like an hacking, because it's coming so many messages, it may slow down the switch performance of the switch or the network devices. So we have to see that can we identify those type of things faster, and can we fix this immediately? So those things. So nowadays so many tools are available to identify that. It is a layered approach is needed, so we cannot depend one particular product to ensure the security. So multiple multiple vendors, like in our exchange, we are using 3 different products, you know, perimeter different, intermediate different, and before the server is a different. So 3-layer approach we have taken with the 3 different vendors. So which shows us with some management tools. So which give us the pre-alerts and anything which is coming with the Fourier, you know, it gives appropriate alert where we can take an action. So as I told you earlier, that it is more is like a process. We should have a proper process and proper approach, because attacks, it is not something coming new. It is there in the industry for so many years. We know this is websites that is going to be hacked. So, and there are fortunately there are so many vendors that are available. I mean, we cannot be mastered in all those areas. So if we don't have in-source capabilities, I think we should outsource it. You know, people like if I want to buy a telecom infrastructure, I should go to BT, right?
Thank you very
so
much.
we should not create our own infrastructure, is it not? So it is something which, because eventually we are doing business. We are not a telecom operator. Neither we are a software company, right? So we are doing running an exchange where bits and bytes of applications and hardware, network, everything is there. It doesn't mean we have to do everything ourselves. You know. So let us identify the right persons, right people who can take care of the respective areas. Like, for example, the website. We don't host our website at our data center. Why should I? You should better, I should give somebody else, you know, who is specialized on that area. No need
but it comes back to, again, choosing the right partners. So a little bit like we had on the panels earlier, you know, build, buy, jigsaw, customization, really looking for what you want to be able to do yourselves and finding the right partners who have got the right sort of solutions for you.
Exactly.
I'm cognizant we've got 10 minutes before the close of this debate and panel. And I was just going to say, has anybody got any experiences? There's a gentleman in the front row again.
Morten Lindvendel in front again. Actually, Paul, I think you touched base with something very important right now. Well, you started off the panel, well, everyone started off the panel saying that, okay, our websites are being attacked regularly. My websites are as well. Happens every minute, usually. But these aren't just organized attacks. The problem with the websites currently and the new trading systems that are out there, the standing data. If I would try to attack an exchange, I'll go for the standing data and I change the ISIN codes. So if you're going to trade on BT, no, you're not. You're going to trade on BP. That will really do a mess to the exchange, and you'll have to shut down. The exchanges are relying more and more on their website with critical data, but they don't really think about it. What have you said? Paul, I'm sure that you've been doing a lot of research and doing a lot of advice to the exchanges there. What do you say to them when it comes to this fact?
There were instances, I think it was the New York Stock Exchange's websites were hacked and the data was changed on the website of particular stocks. Several things to say. One is that the de facto store, if you like, within a stock exchange environment for what ISIN number matches what stock and stock code, etc., is not the website. The website obviously sort of takes information from other stores, particularly the Central Securities Depository, or possibly the trading system. At a wholesale level, it all comes from the trading system anyway, providing that has a static data download. So the fact that someone goes in and changes the ISIN number of a stock on a website might affect retail investors who, and a certain number of fund managers who are sort of looking around for static data like dividend payment dates and stuff like that, but really wouldn't affect, I wouldn't have thought, the financial services markets.
Tahir, I'm sure you've got an opinion on that.
Definitely. I can completely agree on your opinion that the compromising of data is much worse than just attack. I also have an example. It's one of the exchanges which won't be named by me, but they suffered attack and their data were compromised by the intruder in a way that he almost every history data multiplied with P number, also changed the management board names, etc. And they didn't notice it for 10 days until Paris Hilton appeared as a CEO of one telecom company. So.
So exchanges should look out for celebrities or wags on their websites. Right, question on the...
But we have a solution for it.
I just need the full...
We are checking the integrity of our data, which is in the trading system and which is being isolated already, with the integrity of the data on the website. So using the hash signatures. So every 5 minutes we are checking if it's the same. So in any case of any situation of possible compromisation of data, we will have a notification so we can shut down the website or do something else.
Just a comment on you, Paul. Nasdaq OMEX, for instance, I'm sorry to use this as an example. The FDS service is actually just files and is used by a lot of trading systems to download. So if I was going to hack something and do something really bad, this is the way I would have done it. And it couldn't realize it until way into the training day, because they point their fingers everywhere else, unless they actually check these things.
Clearly, as this is being filmed, you're just doing that as an example, and I don't think anybody's recommending that anybody does that. Right? Just the health and safety warning there. Right? Yes, Paul.
I just wanted to say that there's once again an over-focus on the trading system and side of things, in particular in the sort of questions, if you like, that are in the agenda. I worked looking after brokerage systems a long time ago, and in our more bored moments we would work out ways of trying to defraud the system. Once you've hacked your way through the proprietary, the encryption levels and the proprietary sort of information levels and everything like that into the sort of trading stream, you then, the best you can do, and this is a long shot, is to insert a sort of bogus transaction into the system. Although that means that 3 days down the line, that stock moves into one direction and money moves into another. You still have the problem of how to collect the money, if you like. And it's fairly obvious that you've done it if it's moved into your account. So in other words, there's multiple levels, if you like, to stop kind of personal defrauding of the system as opposed to moving the market, which would be one way of putting incorrect data, if you like, into the system, into the sort of the public arena. Secondly, the most vulnerable part to be attacked is in fact the central securities depository. If you can manage to get into that, you can move stock from one person's account into yours and dispose of that very cleanly, and then probably sort of collect the money and run before anyone's actually discovered what's happened.
Again, you're obviously not advising on doing that. This is just,
I would say that obviously a security review should cover all of your systems rather than simply focusing on the website and the trading system.
Baz, before we take the gentleman's question, have you got any comment on?
Yeah, I mean the data what we are publishing in the public domain. I mean, how much security it needs. I mean, this data, if it is somebody even tamper this data, you know, what business loss it possibly incurred to the exchange, yeah, or the investors. Now, if somebody refer a price which is available in the website and the price has been changed by XYZ, now people first of all should not consider that public data, because when we publish a data on a website in a stock price or something, which is delayed data, we never publish the data. No exchange possibly in the world which do that, you know, live data dissemination, because data is a revenue for us, right? So we pass on this data, which people can take as a reference and do the trading. Then they should go to the provider. For example, Reuters are there, or so many other people are there. Now, so therefore, this data which we are publishing in the website is just for information point of view. And if somebody change our CEO's name in an XYZ, now it is, yes, it is insulting for an exchange, but it doesn't mean that it will create a huge amount of business loss to neither to the exchange to the XYZ. Yeah. Now, if it is loss, so then you have to do a business analysis. How we can mitigate? What are the steps we should take to mitigate that business loss? You know, and then I think it will be a commercial decision whether we do it in-house or externally. Right. So
from your perspective, because very much it's reference data, it's data that's delayed, there's less of a risk on the Dubai Commodities and Exchange.
Exactly.
Gentleman at the back who's waiting very, very patiently.
Yeah, Mark Holt from Tradeport. There are three elements of security policy. So there's protection, detection, and response. As with all technology people, we've spent a lot of time focusing on the first one and a minimal amount of time focusing on the second one, although I really liked what Tahir said about the checking the signatures. I thought that was really good. We haven't mentioned response at all. Could the panel comment on that a little bit?
Well, I think it sounds like Tahir's sort of battling on a daily basis, and so is it's like a Karate Kid at the end there. Right, Tahir?
Can you please repeat it?
His question was about saying that, you know, we look at protection, we look at detection, and we look at response, but particularly the last two. You know, how are we looking at those, and what are you doing in terms of that detection and the response? Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Bruce Schneer, who's the expert on this, says that you should spend equally on all three.
I will do. Thank you for telling me my job. You know, I think we've got a candidate for next year, right?
In terms of detection, there are known procedures such as intrusion detection and prevention system, IDS and IPFs. Also, there are known security integrity checks that can be performed on almost every stage of a business logic. And it has to be improved every day. So the message would be to review the logs regularly, to keep in walk with the trends and security issues that might happen. But what about the response? Regarding the response, there are few approaches for it. We can be using, for example, a high availability system which doesn't deal with the data directly and in any time can take over, for example, the load of the web server and take over the another sets of data which is being independently distributed from the main trading engine, for example, and that would be a real-time response in less than a millisecond. But it depends on which portion of the business logic may suffer from a malicious attack or compromisation of data. But to say it again, it can be accomplished on most of the portions as a real-time response. Also, the example would be for regarding the intrusion prevention system, for example. If it's well-structured, using the well-structured rules that actually follows the structure of the web page, and it's more or less easily to detect a possible abuse or a surfer who is not human, actually.
Thank you, Tahir. Now, Basab, everybody's an expert on the paddles here at World Exchange Congress, but obviously you also bring your fans along as well from Trayport. So off you go.
I mean, I think everybody is equally knowledgeable in here. I mean, all in the same, managing the same systems. No, I think that the another critical part is that when you try to put external devices and all, it add latency. Yeah. So as we are talking about low latency environment in the trading segments, putting multiple boxes on obviously create then an issue because whenever it's passed through different checks, it add latency. Yeah, and that can be millisecond, that can be microsecond, but that is. So the issue is that how fast do we, which level you want to? Is the members if I want to put two different IPS in front of my fixing engine, now possibly it will add delay, and that delay will make a business loss. So what sometimes your approach is that you have to see that what maximum loss can gain. I mean, loss can be incurred. Can you compromise this loss? So this, again, I will say that the security architecture has to be linked to the business architecture, the business requirement, yeah, and then the fix needs to be into that place, all right. Now, like he has mentioned, this there are vulnerabilities are coming, and I guess again I will come back to the same thing. I mean, let us identify that the criticality of the data, and let's see that whether we can compromise those. I mean, how many business impact would be on the data. Let's put on to that. So business has to be linked to all the data, whatever we have, and then appropriate steps has to be taken. Yeah. So that is, I think, my approach.
So we have 45 seconds left, 15 seconds each. 2012, you've got a blank piece of paper. What are you going to solve?
Good heavens, just one blank piece of paper.
And 15 seconds.
I would actually engage try to encourage stock exchanges to engage with those in society who seem to finger stock exchanges as being sort of like responsible personally for the credit crunch, and the fact that sort of public services are having to be cut back in various countries to save money, etc. And basically sort of go on a PR campaign to say, no, that stock exchanges are not sort of the greedy bankers, they are other people. Stock exchanges try to...
PR for stock exchanges
PR for stock exchanges.
Basab and yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have to take the credit that we are running this in an exchange without any interruptions, you know. And I'm very happy to tell you, and that gives the trust, and we are getting a business impact 100% growth for last 3 years, you know, continuous basis. And that gives the confidence that the exchange is running without any interruption. And possibly this is one of the key elements, you know, that people are taking it positively, and they're trading with us. And that's resulting.
So you haven't answered my question, but your 15 seconds was up. So Tahir, the last 15 seconds for you. Your blank piece of paper?
I would rather write down the electronic rules for intrusion detection system for the fixed level messaging, and it should be proposed definitely by a fixed protocol organization.
Well, I shall be seeing Jim, who's the co-chair of the European arm of FIX next week, and I shall be giving him your name and number. Right, thank you very much, everybody, and if we can give a big round of applause to Paul, to Basab, and to Tahir. Thank you very much.